In 30 seconds, you'll be dead. Then I'll blow this place up and be home in time for cornflakes.
Oh, please.
A veritable minefield of malapropisms.
What? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mayhem. I'm one of your hosts, Donnie Shields. We also have another host on the line, which is Chase Morgan Hulett. Hi Chase, how are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing all right. How are you?
Not too shabby, actually. Shabby is an interesting word, isn't it?
It is an interesting word.
Where did that come from? Do you remember? Which era?
I'm guessing the 60s. But if you watch The Chosen season 1, Jesus says not too shabby. So apparently it came from the biblical times.
It's prophetic or what is that? Prophetic? Yes, it's prophetic. So Chase, we have a lot to talk about today, specifically Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That opened up last weekend. We obviously didn't go see it. Some of us didn't even go see it yet, but we are going to talk about numbers here this morning, as well as another kind of under the radar, some people are calling it the summer blockbuster that was unforeseen, called the Sound of Freedom movie. And we're also talking about other films that have previously knocked off Indiana Jones in just the second weekend as well. So Chase, I'm going to give you the floor real quick. Out of the Indiana Jones saga that we see, now it's only been out, this is its second weekend. This has been its second weekend, excuse me. And with it only making 247.9 million worldwide in its second weekend, nowhere close to breaking even. This film has been reported at a $300 to $350 million budget, which means it needs to make double that, if not necessarily triple that, because they only get 60% of the box office flows. So Chase, is this film in trouble?
Well, you have all these remakes coming out, and it seems like these major studios like Disney and some of these other ones don't really have original content. So they just kind of keep recycling these old characters and trying to create new stories about them and whatnot. And I think that works to a point. I always thought that 3 movies of the same character or stories is a pretty good max. Once you start getting past like 3 movies, then it starts becoming overrun. And the thing for Indiana Jones is anytime you watch an Indiana Jones movie that's made after The Last Crusade, it's not going to be that good because people are going to compare it to the original 3. It's the same with Star Wars, same with Lord of the Rings, it's the same with all these trilogies. It's just hard to beat that. And I think sometimes they need to let things be and create new content. And I think a lot of viewers, a lot of people out there who are a fan of movies, that's kind of all they're asking for. And it seems like this is just a cheap way to make movies. It's a cheap way to just get something out there. And I know you and I have talked privately, because we're both filmmakers, about, do you want to just make a bunch of content, or do you want to make a couple films, but those films are really good, everything, including writing aspect, distribution, everything is just great. So with Indiana Jones, I think if you separated it from the film, it might be good. I haven't seen it, so I don't have like that review. I was going to see it, but I didn't get a chance to. But again, you do have Harrison Ford returning as a character that a lot of people, including myself, either grew up with or just love in general. And so for me, I want to see it just because I want to see Harrison Ford be Indiana Jones again, because Indiana Jones is a very witty character, kind of like Han Solo, which is funny. It's the same as Harrison Ford, same character. So I think that it dropping makes sense, especially when they came out with the film The Sound of Freedom, which in 2 days it made its budget. It went over its budget. In fact, it's making so much. And if you kind of read between the lines and see what is doing well in the box office, you're going to realize what people want to see and what people are kind of reaching out for in the entertainment industry. But the people who run the entertainment industry are not wanting that. And that's just kind of the funny thing about it. So if you're going to go to the movies, I suggest supporting The Sound of Freedom because it has a good message, has good people behind it. The main actor played Jesus in The Passion of Christ, and he talked about how that film was really impacted his career and how so many people came forward and like gave their life to God for that film. And he said this film, The Sound of Freedom, is the best one since for him in his career. And he had an interview on Fox News about this film, and the interview he was talking about like the numbers and talking about kind of the stuff we're talking about. But what Jim had to say about it was, it's not about the money, it's not about any of that, it's not about beating Indiana Jones in the box office, it's about the children. And now this saying of God's children are not for sale is going around, and that I like hearing that from someone who worked in the film, because then that message is not because of money and wealth and all that kind of stuff. It's all about a good message, which I like to see in a film. So when I go to the movies again, I'm definitely going to go see that movie because I think that'd be a good thing to support.
And I'm going to step in here, and I'm going to, before we talk about Sound of Freedom, I'm going to address one of the things that we always talk about, not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of the films, which means that, if we're going to make a film, we want it to be quality. We don't care about how many we make. We just want quality content, quality filmmaking. And I have to agree, because you look at filmmakers, and I'm not claiming that, because James Mangold, of course, directed this, and there was a few different scriptwriters that were in the Indiana Jones, but specifically this newest one. And I know it took so long to get out, but that was because it was almost in production hell, almost, that film. But you could look at George Lucas. He always wrote a Star Wars. He always wrote an episode. Let me rephrase that. You look at the behind the scenes of making Star Wars. George Lucas always came out with a Star Wars film every 3 years, specifically when he was doing a saga, because he took 1 year to write it, 1 year to direct it, and 1 year to edit it, and then it was out. And he always had that process. And I feel like it's rushed because sometimes movies and franchises try to go back-to-back years. Sometimes they try to go every 2 years. That is just hard to do. And you're seeing this with whether it's Avatar, or you're seeing this with Mission Impossible, and you're seeing this with Fast and Furious. They're trying to spread it out a little bit more. They always tend to push it back a year because they're not done with it, which is fine. But sometimes these productions are really rushed out. You look at Quentin Tarantino. Tarantino's a good example. He has a vision in his head. He wants to do like 10 Hollywood films. I don't know if that's the number, but he said that this next one is going to be his last. And he hasn't directed a whole lot that he could have directed. He just directed a lot of good quality content films to make you laugh, make you go to the theaters and see. So that's what I would say about films. Just kind of, you want to have a basis for writing it. You want to have something and a meaning to direct it, which leads us into Sound of Freedom, how they did have, per se, a reason to do it, because it is relevant in pop culture, which is what's going on, whether it's at the border, whether it's wherever the children are getting sex trafficked to. Of course, I need to see this film, so I'm sure that's going to be in detail, but the sex traffic is happening worldwide. And that's what this film is about. And it's to raise awareness, which I think most people, and this is where I'm going to say a little bit of politics on this, is because Disney's pushing politics in their films, and it's clearly not working. But this, even though it's not a political thing with sex trafficking, because we all should agree that it's bad, there is still a quote unquote politics around it. But showing up to theaters to support this, showing the amount of money that people are seeing this, a faith-based film based off sex trafficking, is showing you that they are actually preaching a good message of quote unquote politics, that people want to see that politics, because that's something that is affecting the current day climate.
Yeah, justice. They want to see justice served, and they want to see good overcome evil. I mean, that's pretty much what they want to see. It's always good, especially in a hard time like we're having. 2023 has been a tough year for the economy and all that. And that's a lot of politics, but it's good to go see a film like that that lifts you up a little bit rather than something that knocks you down. So I think The Sound of Freedom actually chose a pretty good year to come out, because it was filmed last year or something, and they had a hard time getting it out. I don't know the whole story behind that, but I know Angel Studios base everything on crowdfunding, so it might take a little bit longer for them to get something out. And they have to, if you go on their website, listeners, you can donate to the films, whatever they're working on, and if you donate a certain amount, you actually can get a name, you get a package, or you get your name credited in the credits. which obviously that's like $1,000 or more, but still, like, they kind of base it off that. So it just depends. But now that people know Angel Studios is out there and they're creating content that is, I don't want to say innocent, but well mannered, that people are going to go and support that more. So,
and I do have to say, I don't even know if this is an uplifting story yet. Again, you and me both have to see it. I don't know how it ends. It could be a tragic ending for our characters involved in the story. I don't know. We know it is based off true events, true story. But I'm interested in seeing how it's played along, because it could be a tearjerker or it could be an uplifting type film. So we will see what they end up doing there.
it could be kind of like the ending of, remember Schindler's List, where he saved all those people and it actually hurt him because he could have saved more. It could be an ending like that, but I have to go see it, so we need to plan on seeing it. But either way, I think it's going to be something people need to see, whether it's a happy ending or a rough ending. People need to watch it.
And to go back to Indiana Jones here real quick, it hit another big box office stumble when it came in second place in its second weekend. Insidious 5, The Red Door, took it over for number 1 this past weekend, kicking it for number 1. And then it's also a weird time because next weekend you have Mission Impossible coming up.
Yeah, Wednesday, I think, right?
Should be Thursdays, I believe. Thursday nights, typically.
Yeah. Like in the middle, it's weird. It's in the middle of the week.
Well, Sound of Freedom had a Tuesday opening, which was really weird.
Yeah.
But it's also what I do believe, because of the time in which the Mario movie came out. I believe that was like a Tuesday or Wednesday opening for an extended weekend. I forget what it was.
They opened, they premiered it earlier, a couple of days early, because I saw Mario when it came out that weekend. So yeah, I think what's funny with Mission Impossible is there's so many of those films. I'm losing track now. And this one's part 1. That just makes me laugh because you have so many, and then you have this one. You're like, oh, this might be the last one, part 1. Like, okay, did you really have to? That's like if it was Fast and Furious 11 part 1. Like, okay, just call it this movie, and then part 2 could be another title. But it just made me laugh. But the effects and what Mission Impossible what they have going for them, in my opinion, rather than, and I'll compare them to Fast and Furious right now, is they have Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. Like, that is the stunts movie. And Fast and Furious, as much as they are doing stunts, it's all about the action and what they can do. So I feel like you're going to watch Mission Impossible to see how they do the stunts and how accurate, like Tom Cruise hanging off an airplane, legitimately just hanging off an airplane going. Like, so I'm excited to see Mission Impossible, but that's one of the movie series that I have lost track of. In fact, I think the last one I saw was Mission Impossible 3, which that was back in 2005, 6. It's been a while.
So I did read an article the other day, and it was talking about how Tom Cruise is the last big movie star of that era. Because people talk about like The Rock being movie star right now, but they're also like, oh, The Rock's in almost too much. And, like being in too much almost ruins things compared to like your movie stardom per se. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, you get filtering these actors. They don't really act anymore. They're the same person. That's what Dwayne Johnson, like his movies, they're fun, but that's not really movie making, in my opinion. I mean, do you remember when Martin Scorsese said that the Avengers or Marvel movies are just like a roller coaster ride? Like, they're not cinema. They're just an entertainment show, which are meant to be that. But I like films that, that it's an art. So I like to see art qualities in a film. And when it's just like action, advertisement, beautiful women, like after a while, that just becomes like kind of like a flat pop for me. Like, there's no fizz to it. There's not any of that art in it. So,
well, that's because there's structure over like formulas. They have a formula about where to go from point A to point B, and you can repeat that formula so many times before you get bored of it.
Yeah.
One thing is, Scorsese, I agree with the superhero comment, and I think even Spielberg has something to say about the superhero comment. But I do disagree, and I will still disagree with them. I know that they took heat for it. But do you remember when Spielberg made the comment about how like Netflix and stuff like that and streaming services shouldn't be nominated for Academy Awards and stuff like that?
I think I heard that. I think Tarantino had something to say about streaming services too.
Yeah, it's like I kind of disagree because again, if the Sound of Freedom, say the Sound of Freedom only came out on angelstudios.com or whatever, whatever. If it's a great film for that year it's debuted, I think that it should have a fair shot to be an Academy Award winner. I don't necessarily believe that it needs a theatrical release. Obviously, this got one, so we'll be interested to see what happens. Although I disagree, I definitely don't think it's ever going to be nominated because of the culture that we live in for an Academy Award. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, they have guidelines now, or they're coming up with guidelines for the Academy Awards, so it's probably not.
Yeah, and that's going to ruin it.
If it delivers a truthfully good message, it's going to get a lot of heat. And when a film gets a lot of heat and a lot of like, don't watch this film, you should go watch it. Because most of the time, it's because people don't want people to see it because it speaks the truth. And that's the sad thing. But I actually have news for you, Donnie, for this Mayhem morning. Deadpool 3 is expected to come out May 3rd of next year. It's in production right now. And I just read this article. Maybe this article's been out for a while, but with me being behind, I wanted to share this. Jennifer Gardner is coming back as Elektra. So she's going to be coming back and playing that part. It's been like 20 years. I always grew up watching those old Marvel movies. Back when Marvel wasn't like a big studio, it was just an association,
So you like the first Hulk movie then?
Oh, like 2003?
Yeah.
I do. And the reason I like that movie is because Stan Lee was so behind that film. He was so pumped for that film. It really followed what he wanted, and that's what I really like about it. And I like how the Hulk looks. Like, some people don't like it because he looks too realistic or he looks too fake, maybe. But they also involved a scene from the comic books, which was him fighting the dogs. That was a cool scene. So I do like the Hulk movie. But Elektra is coming back. I think that's cool. Now, when you do remakes like that, I think that's cool because it's like nostalgia. You're bringing something back. And I think it's really cool to see a character I can't think of the word now. Why can't we think of words on this podcast? It's cool to see like actors coming back to characters when it's been so long. Not like you see them all the time as that character, like, unfortunately, Indiana Jones.
Come on.
Though when the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, that was pretty cool because we're like, The Last Crusade was great. That's cool they're coming out with one. And Spielberg is directing it? No way. But I'm curious on what Deadpool 3 will do because I wasn't too big a fan of the second one. Only because when I watched the first one, the comedy was I didn't really expect it to be that funny, in my opinion. And that's why it was so hilarious, because you didn't expect it. But the second one, it sounded like they were just trying to be funny. And I never like comedies that just like try to be funny. It's better when like the writer's like, I don't know if this is funny, but I'm going to try it out. But I'm excited for Deadpool 3. So there's some news for you.
Well, nostalgia can only get you so far, as we found out through The Flash, because there's good nostalgia and there's bad nostalgia. And like, you don't base a story around nostalgia, which it seems like they're doing with Indiana Jones. Of course, we both need to see it, and they did it with The Flash. But in this case, reprising the role is reprising the word you were looking for.
Is the word.
We have a hard time on this channel. But sometimes the audience never knows it because we do tend to just chop things out and make it seem like it's good. Yes, we make ourselves seem literate even when we're not.
I have an English degree. Did you know that?
But we need Kat here because Kat's the English connoisseur that can just release all these words to us. But as far as Deadpool, you know why it's going to be great, Chase? There's only one reason.
Hugh Jackman
as Wolverine, baby. We're coming back. Too bad. I don't know. I don't even know with this camera if you can see that there's a Wolverine poster on the wall. Probably not. But I love the Wolverine. I had the first ever comic book, and it is good to see Hugh Jackman reprise his role. Although the question being, Logan was such a good ending for his whole character development of Wolverine, and I know I know that movie ticked some people off with how it was handled, because back in the original vision Wolverine was one of those kind of characters that was like cursed to live eternity with his power and always lose his friends, lose his loved ones. And that was like, but he was going to live on forever until he found that person, which he did back in the comic books about living forever and living with somebody else that was also immortal. and they fell in love. And that was like his challenge over time, because he went through all the world wars, he went through all the different situations, went through a lot of battles. He even fought Thanos at one time. Don't know if anybody knew that, but that's fascinating. They actually, if you look up some Marvel tidbits, I did see that they said that, you know how like Thanos has like scars on the side of his face?
Yeah.
That was from a quote unquote battle with Wolverine in that universe. But they showed it. They just, they couldn't put it out there because movies couldn't merge at that time because two different studios ended.
Yeah, and I loved how Logan ended. I really did. It was a good goodbye. Sometimes those characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and them, it's good for them to say goodbye.
Well, it is, but the thing is, like, it was a newer comic book series, and you know me, Chase. I don't like to own or purchase any of the new comic book stuff because I don't find it to be very relevant. But I do have that 5 or 4 comic book collection for the Death Wolverine that's based off of. So, but Deadpool 3, I'm looking forward to. I also didn't like the second one as well. There was just something missing, and I can't tell you what it was. It just felt there was something missing. It wasn't Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't really the cast of characters. There was just something missing that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah, it didn't seem that's what I was meaning about comedy. Like sometimes comedy just tries too hard, and I think the only time you should try to be funny is when you're making like a goofy comedy, like Mel Brooks or Adam Sandler. That because it's just goofy. But when you're trying to sincerely be funny, if you try to be funny, it doesn't come out well. That's why you just got to be. That's why dry sense of humor is one of the greatest humors, because you're not trying to be funny. At times you're just saying what's on your mind, and it comes out, and it's the delivery. That's why I like Guy Ritchie movies. Like, I know we watched Snatch together, and he has The Gentleman, and he has Operation Fortune, which I haven't seen, but those movies are so funny because it seems like they're not trying to be funny. They're just telling a story, but in a very sarcastic, dry sense of humor way, which I love, because then you get the best one-liners from those type of movies. Same with The Big Lebowski. If you haven't seen, have you seen Big Lebowski?
I have seen The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, that's so funny because the one-liners in that movie are just hilarious, and it's just so stupid. So,
but those are writers that know the characters that they're writing. And the one thing about comedy films is typically, and I find this to be true, when a comedy has like that one star in it, I'm not talking about like a physical actor as a star, but like the main character of it, when everybody else around that main character acts the same, it's a pretty dull movie and it's pretty boring, regardless of the one-liners and stuff. But the credit is to the writers who write all these different parts. Like, let's look at Bullet Train, for example. There was no person, and I know I bring up Bullet Train too much, but there was no person that was the same. You can look at Pulp Fiction. There was no character that was the same. And they all knew their place. They all knew their own background and their own story. And yes, that's credit to the actors, and credit to the directors, but it's credit to the writers for writing and keeping track of how everybody should be in their motives and their personalities and where they came from.
Yeah, exactly. And you bring up Pulp Fiction. I was reading an article about it, and Tarantino said when he first came out with it, he had a screening for his friends, and he showed it. And at the end, like no one clapped. Everyone was like, "That was a weird movie." And Tarantino was like, "Oh no, it's not a good movie." And he's like, "But one friend," and I don't remember her name. They named her, but I don't remember her name. But she was just clapping and all excited and just bragged about this film to her friends and everyone. And it seems like that one person really helped Tarantino move forward with that one screening, and then it got him an Academy Award. So, whenever you're making a film, whether it's you, me, or anyone listening, if you are not sure, someone's going to like your film. And I love that message with Pulp Fiction, because Pulp Fiction is a good movie, but it is not a movie for everyone. Like, I haven't found that many people that liked it. But when you get around film people like you, me, people I went to school with, they love it. And it's that movie's interesting because it's really a black and white if you like it or not.
I mean, so the way I will describe it is, I'm not a huge fan of Pulp Fiction, but I like the genre that that came out of Pulp Fiction, because I think that it was kind of like what is it called? The bleeding edge, when like Quentin Tarantino was like creating this new pop culture like event for that was going to take over cinema, and it's been replicated before, and I think it's been built upon. It's kind of like science and words, they always claim Albert Einstein knew everything, which he probably did, but he put the foundation and people improved it over time. And so I think that Bullet Train was kind of like that. I do appreciate Bullet Train better than Pulp Fiction, but I will say Pulp Fiction has a good first and third act. The second act in Pulp Fiction is a little bit hard for me to watch and does bore me and lose me a little bit.
Yeah, it's really mixed up. But I just love the writing on it. But Bullet Train is pretty funny. And, I love Brad Pitt more when he's older than younger, except for Snatch. Snatch is still my favorite Brad Pitt movie. It will never, nothing will beat it. I just love that movie to death. But Bullet Train was definitely the top 5 for Brad Pitt. I love he's starting to become a comedy actor. He's starting to become just that funny dad joke guy. And so Bullet Train is hilarious. And it's a book too. So you should read the book.
Well, viewers, I'm going to leave you with one final question here that you can type in the comment section below. This goes back to a question earlier about an article that we read about Tom Cruise being the last big actor. Is that true? Is that not? And list an actor that you think is actually a bigger Hollywood star in the comment section below. Chase, Morgan Hulett, everybody. Thank you, Chase, for another episode of Movie Mayhem. Do you want to leave the audience on any parting notes?
Go see The Sound of Freedom. Go support that film, and we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for another Movie Mayhem. I'm Donnie Shields. This is the Shoe of Hope channel. Thank you for watching.